And we're back with WSJ Lunch Break. I'm Wendy Bounds. So what were the best and the worst airlines last year? I bet you have an opinion. Well, let's see if what you think matches up with what our middle seat columnist Scott McCartney found when he crunched the data. Hi, Scott.
Wendy.
All right, let's just save the worst and the best for just a moment. We got to know, what are your criteria? We all have our own things that annoy us about the airlines and that we complain about. You look at what?
Well, this is the American Idol of airline competitions. No, it's actually based on a lot of data. I look at on-time results, cancellations, excessive delays, those long delays stretching 45 minutes or more, mishandled baggage, bumped passengers, and complaints filed at the Department of Transportation. Mix it all together and you get a pretty good read on which airline's doing well and which airline is really messing up.
All right, let's go glass half empty right now. Worst airlines, who did you find?
You know, the worst two were American and United. They both had miserable years last year. United actually scored lowest in our rankings. They had computer problems in March when they moved United onto Continental computer systems. They had a terrible summer. They tried to redo their schedule and get by with fewer spare airplanes. It all backfired. They've had to rethink all of that. So a very tough year. They had to apologize to their customers a couple times during the year. American was also in the apology business. They were kind of mediocre the first 6 months of the year compared to their peers. And then the wheels came off this fall. There was the pilot dispute that really messed things up in September and October. And even one example, Christmas Day in Dallas, an inch of rain, half an inch of snow. There was some ice, but everybody else did fine with it. And just the wheels came off at American. They ended up with 1,000 people sleeping in the terminal, hundreds of flights canceled. People didn't show up for work. They couldn't get planes de-iced. It was a huge mess.
Wow, a lot of flyers not feeling happy if they've been flying United and American, but not so over at Delta. They did pretty well, and this was a turnaround for them.
Yeah, this is really a pretty amazing turnaround. Delta was at the bottom of our rankings in 2010. 2011, they really did pretty well. 2012, they just hit it out of the park. Flight cancellations, a really good measure. You know, your flight gets canceled, you're really pissed. They had so few flight cancellations, about 0.5%. Really remarkable performance. They were at the top in or near the top in all of our categories. In talking to Delta's operations folks, they said, you know, we had a good year in 2011, a great year in 2012. One example, they set their own measures against themselves. They tried to exceed 2011. They exceeded all of those measures. They measure themselves against past Delta performance rather than the competitors, because they're really now so far ahead.
Scott, last thing, I mean, overall, the industry seems to be doing a little bit better by your criteria. Nearly 80% of flights on U.S. passenger planes arrive within 15 minutes of their scheduled time. That sounds pretty good. How are they making these sort of bigger improvements?
You know, it was a pretty good year. A lot of the credit, I think, goes to the reduced flight schedules. Airlines have, through the recession, really curtailed a lot of flying. They're still taking planes out of service. Reducing that congestion has really helped. New technology has helped some. The improvement at a big airline like Delta has helped a lot. In general, you know, airlines are able to focus more on their performance. It's gotten more competitive. Travelers are paying more attention. And so they're having to respond. Overall, the industry's doing better than it was just a couple of years ago.
All right, Scott McCartney, he's the middle seat man. More on his rankings tomorrow in the Personal Journal section. Thanks so much, Scott.